everybody. I'm Shawn Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Wiebe from the Winnipeg Free Press. Together we are Kenny and Renny. This is the Kenny and Renny post-game show after Jets' 5th straight loss. And yes, coming to you from the bowling alley, as someone called it before. Why have I not done shows from here for the last little while? It's a little bit more of a controlled environment at home. You don't get locked in the stairwell like you do here. You don't have to leave the building and beg your way back into the building without your bag or your credentials because you get stuck in said stairwell. And the only way out is to go out into the cold, lonely streets of Winnipeg afterwards. I don't want this to, I don't want this to sound like too much of a sob story, but if you want to feel sorry for Renny, or maybe even just a little bit of empathy, this would be a good time to do it. That said, let's get to the show, and a lively one it's going to be. I'm seeing stuff from Doug Henderson here who says peaked too soon. Maybe something to be said about that if the Winnipeg Jets are saying that they're trying to get back to what they were throughout a 30-game stretch this season. Sure sounds like they're trying to be something that they were in the past. That would probably qualify as peaking too soon. But regardless, I like that Winnipeg Gabriel Vivaldi is saying, we're glad you're here. It's time for our therapy session. Let's get into the therapy session here. 5 straight losses, okay? That's the first thing that you need to take away from this. How did I figure that out? Doesn't take great analysis. Take a look. That's 5 straight losses for the Winnipeg Jets. I'll say this, though. Right off the bat, I look at this game, and I think we're talking about the idea of the Winnipeg Jets building. That game against we talked about it after the Washington loss. 2 good periods by the Winnipeg Jets kind of fall apart in the 3rd period. They didn't respond well to getting scored on there, but it was better than what we saw from the previous 2 games. And then the last game against the Edmonton Oilers, a game in which they get a point. Again, I think that was the Edmonton Oilers were the better team in that game, but the Jets, I don't want to go the found a way route, but they were looking closer to a team that is ready to compete against some of the upper echelon teams in the NHL. Tonight, during this 5-game stretch, is the first game that I've seen that the Winnipeg Jets were the better of the 2 teams. I know that's going to sound crazy. They lose this game 4-1. 2 of them are empty net goals. It's a 2-1 game. We're tied right kind of down the stretch here. Lots of reasons to dig in. Maybe the Jets didn't handle losing Mark Schiefele well. There's an empty net that Nick Ehlers could have scored on that really probably would have turned this game in the Jets' favor. We're probably talking about the Jets coming away with 2 points and snapping this streak. Instead, it goes the other way. But I take a look at this game and I equate it to earlier in the season, right at the beginning of the season, when the Winnipeg Jets, and we were talking on this show and saying, hey, there's reason to believe in this Jets team right at the start, when some people were throwing their hands up in the air and saying, this team isn't going to go anywhere. What I saw at that time was a team that did a lot of the right things. And if they kept doing those, they were going to come out ahead in games more often than not. And what we saw after that was a team that started trending in that direction, and then became the team that was atop the NHL for a certain stretch of time. Whether they've peaked or not, that's a question. I'm going to write it down. We'll ask that from Ken when he gets in here. Have the Jets peaked? Did they peak? Can they get back to that peak? Is there only one peak, or is this a Swiss Alps of peaks and there's more peaks to be had? But I go back and I say, because I think at that time, and if you've been following along this show the entire time, that was something that we were saying at the beginning of this year. The Jets may not, it's not always about getting the 2 points, although, if you want first place in the Central Division, you want these points if that means a ton to you. But to me, the overarching goal of what the Winnipeg Jets most need to be looking at, because in my opinion, there's no open spaces on the bingo card in the West. I don't think it necessarily matters who you play. I don't think home ice advantage is the hugest advantage. I think the people that it means the most to are the Winnipeg Jets fans, who would like to see as many playoff games as they could, and more specifically Mark Chipman, who wants to see as many home playoff games as he can. But to me, the importance and the thing that matters beyond anything is just getting their game to a place where they can be competitive with the best teams in the NHL in the playoffs, in the Western Conference to start, and then take it from there. See where it goes from there. Listen, does that sound like a resounding, sales pitch for a team to go on and win the Stanley Cup? God, no. Would it be better if the Jets weren't in a place and hadn't let their games slide to a point that with 10 games left in the season, we need to be talking about moral victories and then building back up into being a competitive team? It's bad. It's bad that we're talking about that. But all that said, tonight, the Winnipeg Jets against a team that had taken points in 5 of its last 6 games, this is one way to look at it, were the better team on the ice and had, an empty net gone their way, maybe we're talking about something different. Renny, for the most part, is the truth teller, and he's not the guy who gets the excuse factory going up. But I'm honestly telling you what I saw here tonight. The Jets were the better team, but they didn't come away with the victory. Are there things that they could have done? Is part of the fact that they've allowed their game to slip and maybe their confidence. One of the reasons they don't come away with 2 points in this game, that's a great conversation. We'll have that conversation. Write that one down as well. But I still think that if you're taking a look, we've seen the Winnipeg Jets take a step against the Washington Capitals. We saw them take another step against the Edmonton Oilers. And despite the fact that they got a point in that game and didn't get a point in this game, I think this game is more of a reason to believe that the Jets can get back to a competitive state with the best teams in the Western Conference if they continue to build on what they did here on this night. Now, someone fill me in on what happened with the rest of the teams, because like I said, I was locked in a stairwell for the last little while. But if I'm taking a quick look here at NHL.com, I'm noticing that where are we? Okay, so the Avalanche take a point. That gets them 1 up there. The Predators down 6-3. So it looks tonight like the Predators aren't going to be breathing down their next 1-1 between the Stars and the Canucks in the third period. I'm going to be honest with you. I think the ship has sailed on first and maybe even second place in the Central Division. So this is one reason I'm not really focused on the points thing. If they were to fall behind the Nashville Predators, which I'm not changing my mind on this, it's still a long shot for that to happen. Again, I don't think it really changes anything about who they're playing in the first round or the second round. I don't think there's much of a difference between, finishing third in the Central or finishing in that wild card. We have said that maybe the Vancouver Canucks would be the best draw for the Winnipeg Jets, but all in all, to me, I'm scrubbing the idea of points out of my head at this stage. To me, it's essentially meaningless. And what is more meaningful is the Jets doing exactly what I was saying and getting back to the right kind of playing the right kind of game. What are some examples of that? Well, the start in the game outshot 7-1 at the beginning of the game. Not a very good example of that, I would say. Big Stan comes in, second straight fight. I thought the Jets responded better to it this time. Last time the Jets started the game hot, Stan got in the fight, and then it seemed to cool them off. This time, the opposite effect is the Jets really get going after that. First period for me is still a Vegas Golden Knights period. I looked at the high danger chances. They were 7-2 in that first period. That matches with the eye test that I saw. Connor Hellebuck was great in that first period. Second period, though, is just an absolute walk by the Winnipeg Jets, who were dominant in that period. And I thought the better team for a good chunk of the third period. Man, oh man, this power play. I've run out of superlatives to talk about how ineffectual it is becoming at this point. Maybe there's one point. I'll say this: Jets get the one goal of the game, and how do they do it? They get it the exact same way they got their previous 2 goals before this against the Edmonton Oilers. They're shooting the puck from the point, they're creating havoc in front of the net, and they're redirecting the shots. These are the kind of goals, the goal that was scored tonight by Shawn Monahan, are the kind of goals that can be replicated in the playoffs. So they're getting the offense the right way. And I've said this in the past, and I said this before the Jets went on a little bit of a tear here, but the mindset of the Jets and what works for them offensively, and they're probably not doing it enough in their game right now, but we see that their last 3 goals are of a type: create havoc, get to the front of the net, fire it from the point, let's see what happens. And what happens is the Jets are scoring goals off that. And then they go to the power play, and it turns into this perimeter pass fest. And they're not getting the puck to the front of the net. There's one point tonight, we sit beside Christian Amel from CBC, and we're watching, and Kyle Connor gets the puck, and there's Tyler Toffoli in front of the net, and nobody is around him. And in that moment, I'm just thinking Kyle Connor's going to fire the puck here right now. If it doesn't go in, there's going to be a good shot at a rebound, and now you've got Tyler Toffoli all alone in front of the net. Those kind of plays aren't happening, and to me, that's the problem. The one thing, and I talked about it if you tuned into myself, Ellie Moore on CJOB before the game, that I was talking about Gabe Vilardi getting back to the lineup. His assessment is you shouldn't expect Gabe Vilardi comes back in and everything turns around and it's just like an instantaneous click and a fit. But I will say this, if you can get him on the power play, the one thing about Gabe Vilardi is his presence meant that the Jets were pushing to get the puck to the front of the net. And I don't think that they're doing that anymore. And if you want to know why their power play is just going over, and swing and a miss, is it's just perimeter play, perimeter passes. They're trying to set up one-timers and shoot it into an empty net. They pull it off with Nikolai Ehlers, but even Nikolai Ehlers said after the game that other than that opportunity, they had created absolutely nothing from the second unit. So yes, if you want to pass and pass and pass and pass and pass, maybe you get that one brilliant opportunity like Nick Ehlers had and should have connected on. I think he'll say that, but wasn't able to connect on. Well, that's great. You get that one opportunity. Or you get it to the net front and you battle away and you try and jam a couple pucks in here and there, and you get a whole bunch of opportunities, and maybe you generate more than one great scoring chance on 5 power plays, and then maybe you generate 2 or 3 over and over again on each of the power plays that you're in. And you just get it to the front of the net. You try and overpower the opposition's defense. You try and overpower their goaltender, who did not look overly sharp tonight. I thought this is another night in which I take a look and I think Connor Hellebuck was the best goalie on the ice. He walks away with the Reynolds stat on the ice, just doesn't walk away with the 2 points. The Jets got to get back to a mindset of getting the puck to the front of the net, scoring some greasy goals. It's what this team has done best so far this year. People who ask me about the snake charmer now and again, I don't say it that often anymore, not because I'm trying to keep some of you who are playing the snake charmer drinking game from being alcoholics. It's because I don't see that kind of offense happen anymore, and I wouldn't call it snake charmer offense. What they're doing, they're just kind of playing catch and passing it around the horn right now on the power play. It's not dangerous enough. It's not direct enough. They need to get the puck to the net. And listen, Rick Bowness, I don't know if he specifically said it. I know he said it last game. I'm sure he believes that way. But you cannot walk away in low-scoring games like this where your defense and your goaltender are giving you a chance, and all it takes is one goal to break it wide open. And you can't continue to not only go over on the power play, but not really put up much in the way of dangerous opportunities on that power play and expect things to go any better. Jets need to correct their power play, and they need to do it right now. That's my take on a whole bunch of things, and I have tap danced effectively despite being locked in a stairwell to get Ken into the show here. So here he comes, everybody, the man with the best music in the business. Here comes Kenny. Ken, how are you doing, my friend? It's good to see you. A couple of things that I wanted to bring in here. Can't really bring it back, but AJ Jet's back. has said he wants Snake Charmer audience. AJ Jetsback, you know not what you're asking for. I bring that up. He also says, has Bones coached the offense out of the team? His track record would say so. I'm not sure if I agree with that, but it's a decent question to ask. I bring that up because AJ Jetsback makes a couple interesting comments, and also AJ Jetsback should stick around until the end of the show. Just a premonition I may be having right now. But Ken, looking like $1 million, looking like a Vittorio Rossi man. I think a lot of people right now would think the only thing that would look better than the way you and I are dressed at this moment would be a Jets victory on this night. But until then, they're just going to have to settle for looking at two dapper gentlemen talking hockey in front of them. And we are dapper because we headed on down to Corden Avenue to Vittorio Rossi, walked in to Vittorio Rossi and asked for Frankie and the boys. They did us up right. You should do the same when you go in there. Tell them Kenny and Renny sent you, and dapper gentlemen you will be as well. Ken, what'd you see tonight?
Yeah, I mean, it's Rick Bonus's theory is definitely getting tested this week, Shawn, right? I mean, we know there's no moral victories for the Jets, but I mean, there's a trail of improved play, yet they have nothing to show for it. So they're kind of saying all the right things. And yeah, sure, puck management was better and the Jets generated 78 shot attempts in the contest, but they only score one time. So improvement in many areas, but all of a sudden I wouldn't say the well is dry. They had 3 the other night, but on a night when you generate 78 shot attempts and many of them, quality chances and good looks, you have to score more than one time if you want to win the game in general terms. So Jets found themselves in an even game with a very hungry team and went toe-to-toe with them. However, they came away with nothing, and a team, the Vegas Golden Knights, who are fighting for their playoff lives, got 2 and ran out of the building and went straight to Minneapolis. It was not, I mean, the Jets are, in the Monopoly setting, do not pass go, do not collect $200. But, I mean, that's looking more like the game that will be required to win games when it matters most. Now, that accounts for nothing to show for it right now. But, I mean, is it better than the alternative of cheating the game and scoring 5? Yes, like what you said, their offense has to come from things that are repeatable, and they got to the net plenty. They generated ample opportunities. Even Mason Appleton, before the empty netter, Shawn, one of the best chances of the game, one-timer on the 6-on-5. Logan Stanley drives across, kicks out his right leg, makes the save. Soon after that, Barbashev finds the puck and finds the empty net. So, I mean, again, I'm not trying to look at this with rose-colored glasses. The Jets legitimately, their turnovers were far fewer than the other night, especially, the other night, second period, awful, by their own admission. Today, their second period was one of their best they've played in a long time. So is that going to translate into winning 3 or 4 rounds? No. But if you don't play the right way, you're going to be blown out and be out in 4 or 5 games. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not at a loss for words, but I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say the Jets played, they played great, but at the same time, I'm not ripping them. It's a tie game. They had 40 shots against a team that's pretty defensively responsible. So they did a lot of good things, but at the same time, they, lost coverage on Pavel Dorofeev on the first goal. And I noticed somebody in the chat room was saying that Logan Stanley screened Connor Hellebuyck. That puck is barred down. It had nothing to do with Logan Stanley or anybody standing anywhere else. I think that personally, I mean, Shawn, I think you agree. It looked like Logan or Tyler Toffoli over pursued the play. The guy got by him, and Dorofeev got loose in the slot and ripped it bar down. On the second goal by Barbashev, he's kind of being checked, but he bats a backhand. I might have even been out of the air. Perfect shot, but he's got to be checked there completely, right? I mean, that's in a 1-1 game. You got to have a stick there or prevent him from getting that much on the backhand that goes rooftop on the blocker's side. Again, 6-on-5, 2 empty netters. I mean, no issue with that whatsoever. But again, Jets got to cash in there. 0 for 5. I would just, again, this is not an argument, but I actually thought the Jets on their first 3 power plays were pretty dangerous. They had 5 high danger chances on the power play in the first 2 periods, but then their power play in the third, outside of Ehlers' glorious chance at 3/4 of the net, they didn't generate anything, right? They got zone time, but they didn't really generate anything. But then Vladislav Nemestikov makes a brilliant pass. And Ehlers himself, Shawn, you were there. I asked him about it, a follow-up question. He's not sure if he rushed it or what happened. All he knows is that he can't believe that he didn't score and that he would be practicing it tomorrow. I mean, that's
I didn't think he rushed it. I think he just missed. I mean, I think he's at a loss because he doesn't know how he missed it. I don't think he did anything wrong on that play. The fact that he didn't miss the open net, like it didn't look rushed to me. It looked perfectly executed, and then all of a sudden hit the side of the net. So, I mean, sometimes you just miss, right?
Oh, he definitely.
I think that's one of those cases. I don't think he missed because of this, because of that. I think he just missed.
I mean, again, what I meant by that, and what I asked him, I said, did he maybe have more time than he thought he had? That's why I thought he rushed it. I mean, I don't think that there's no way he could have known that Thompson was laying down on the ice and that so much of the net was open. That was sort of more of my point there. Like it almost felt like it was one of those things where your stick almost gives out on you, right? And maybe there's too much flex or whatever it is.
I think he just missed. I think he did. Like, I think it's just one of those ones where you like get it and you got it and you throw it and you miss it and you're sitting there and like again like I didn't look at it. I didn't think he needed more time to take with it. I didn't think he needed to skate it into the net. There, I think everything was executed to absolute perfection, other than the fact that he missed a wide open net, and it happens, right?
Oh gosh, yes, of course it happens. But I love we've been talking about a lot of things, Shawn, and I mean, Nikolai Ehlers is one of the most accountable players on the Winnipeg Jets team. I mean, there's a long laundry list of examples, but I mean, I love the fact that he is, that's on me. Not all players are like that.
Sounds like you're trying to give him the Pristine Roofing wake-up call, Ken. What's your deal? Why are you picking on him?
No, that was not my intent. No, the Jets power play is getting the Pristine Roofing wake-up call. So let's go to that. One for 21.
Okay.
0 for 10 on this homestand. Pristine Roofing wake-up call. Generating opportunities, fine and dandy. But in a tie game, time to step up and deliver.
No doubt. And that means it's time to give North End Rick the Pristine Roofing wake-up call. He's the guy you call, get down to your place for all your roofing, siding, exterior needs. 1-204-981-6289. You can call Pristine Roofing as well at 1-204-237-7663. I know we're in, what is this, 7th winter now, Ken? I'm sure we're going to have 8, but that doesn't mean that you can't get on your roof right now. It's that time of year. Pristine Roofing is who you want to call for that. And don't forget their Pay It Forward program, in which they are giving a free roof out to someone who is in need. So if you know someone in your life who could use a free roof, may not be able to afford it, Pristine Roofing could very well have you covered if you get a hold of North End Rick or Pristine Roofing and let them know someone in your life who could use that break that Pristine Roofing is so generously providing. Did you want to dig into the power play any more than you have? I mean, I went pretty in depth on it. To me, I just think there's an indirectness to it. I don't think there's like, I think simply they just need to be firing pucks in the pads and getting at it. You know what I mean? Too many shots are going up and they're getting gloved down and they're kill plays or they're missing the net. Just get it like, I don't know if they're shooting for tips. Maybe that's why they're shooting it up there. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, the way that they've been playing. I think that they should continue shooting for tips. But there's some times I just think they need to get it to the front of the net and try and let someone like Toffoli's hands take over.
Yeah, I mean, they're credited with shots for at 12 on the power play. I mean, that to me suggests they are getting a few more through. But I mean, I do think there were some signs, but then again, like I said, in the third period, when the game is on the line and they needed it, they didn't get it. So they need to be a little bit more diligent. And I agree. I definitely agree with you with what you said. I mean, twice in the last 2 games at 5-on-5, Nikolai Ehlers has taken a shot from a area where Shawn Monahan got himself a redirection. So, I mean, this guy's one of the best guys in the league at tipping pucks. So there has to be more opportunities for that to be happening, whether that's from the flank, from Kyle Connor, from Mark Schiefele, more from the top from Josh Morrissey. I mean, it's just got to be something where the high tip has got to be available. I mean, Shawn Monahan was asked directly if teams are, had done the pre-scout and, taken away a little bit more. There certainly have not been any one-timers from the bumper or high slot have not been available for him to be shooting. So then maybe they got to find other areas for them to be, having tip pucks and whatever. I mean, there's no way around it. Since Gabriel Velarde left the power play, Sean, they haven't been nearly as good, despite the 3-for-3 against the Ducks in the last game of the previous homestand. I mean, there's no way around that. And sorry, Mull, I had never wished Ehlers for Ristolainen. Not a hope.
He's just bugging you, Ken. He's bugging you. Let it slide. Let it slide, Ken. Take it easy.
That's all good. He wasn't quite wake up territory yet there, but I mean, Mull was wondering about Neil Pionk when I clearly the last two games it said that Pionk hadn't had good games. I mean, like, I'm not sure what he wants. I'm not, Neil Pionk I thought he was better in the game today. No doubt about it. Didn't you?
I think you're giving Mull exactly what he wants right now.
Well done. Well done for you, Mull.
Move on to Shawn Monahan. I thought he was the best Jet tonight. I thought Josh Morrissey had another great game. We can get to him. But what are you seeing from Shawn Monahan lately that is working so well?
Oh, I'd say the biggest thing, Sean, is his skating. I mean, he's back to moving around. I mean, back to moving freely and getting into open ice and sort of helping to push the pace and push the defense of their opponent back. So I thought that Monahan was excellent. I thought Morrissey, I mean, again, I'm not going to change the subject, but I mean, Josh Morrissey, just under 30 minutes, Sean, 29-55, 4 shots on net, 10 shot attempts, 2 hits. I mean, he's here, he's there, he's everywhere, he's omnipresent. But for the Jets, I understand we know there's been a humongous debate about what the top 6 looks like and what it should look like. And a lot of people want to see Nikolai Ehlers with Mark Schiefele, but Rick Bowness, in 2 games, Rick Bowness has had what he wants to see, which is Monahan and Ehlers, and they've scored both nights. Brent Bellamy, do you think the Jets should try to sign Monahan?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely they should. Mention it in my mailbag. We've mentioned it on this program countless times. No, it's going to be up to Monahan. I mean, the Jets are going to make him a competitive offer. There's no, let's just look at the history here. They did everything in their power to sign Paul Stastny. Paul Stastny took the tax-free offer from Vegas. They're still going to be giving a competitive offer, but the issue is there's going to be other teams offering Shawn Monahan, money, and will they offer more term? I don't know, but I think that Monahan has been a perfect fit here. I would be comfortable with the Jets offering 4 or 5 years, no doubt about it. But I mean, that it's going to be up to him. He's going to have his choice on where he wants to play. Would I think there would be some appeal for Shawn Monahan to play here? Of course, he's played his 2 markets in the NHL. Sean, are both Canadian markets, so I don't think he's going to be, shy away from that potential of planting his flag in a third market. Today's goal is his 10th in 25 games, Sean. He continues to be one of the most productive. I know he's not a deadline day pickup, but this is another example of why Kevin Cheveldayoff made the preemptive strike, right? Like, he's played 25 games now, and he's been an incredibly productive player. So he gives them everything that they need in that 1B center. I mean, it's been impressive, and I think that he'll continue. For the Jets to get themselves back on track, they need Shawn Monahan playing the way that he has in the last 2 games, because he's given them that perfect fit down the middle. And at a time where the top line is not producing offense at the rate that they had previously, they need their second scoring line to produce. And, they've done that the last 2 games. And just quickly, kind of tying a bow on things here, Sean, Mason Appleton, once again, I know some folks were sharing plenty of opinions on Mason Appleton. 4 shots on goal, 9 shot attempts, 6 hits. I thought he was awesome today. There's absolutely no doubt that third line is absolutely clicking. And, again, like I said, I made the joke about their blended shift scored a goal the other night. I was totally, absolutely making fun of my own earlier season take. But
Well,
just a quick one.
have you
Just a quick
officially
one here.
abandoned the? Hold on.
No, I
Is
have not
breaking news.
abandoned the.
Have you officially abandoned the break up the third line take?
Oh, I abandoned it a long time ago. But
You did?
just,
You never officially said. Look at you. Try to just let you that bad stinky take. It's like, you know
easy.
what you did? It was like you were at a high-end hotel and you were stinking up your room, and then you put the late night room service and you stuck it out in the hallway, hoping that someone else would get pinned for it. You didn't even have the courage to come out and say, listen,
buddy,
folks, I know I let everybody down, but it's official. Ken Wiebe abandons the break up the third line take. We should have had like graphics and music for this whole thing. What is happening here? Why am I only hearing about this now? This is honestly, I feel betrayed at this stage.
You shouldn't.
I feel betrayed.
And again, you knew the reason why I mentioned it was not about the third line, but I think that third line can still be effective with Alex Iafallo on it. And the top six needed Nino's help. That was my point from the very beginning. But again, right now it's not relevant because that third line the checking line, which plays ample minutes, was very good. I thought Adam Lowry was very involved, very involved physically. A huge hit on Jonathan Marchessault so early. I thought that the Jets did a great job in the physical game. The Vegas Golden Knights are a team that can be intimidating, and the Jets didn't back down. In fact, in a lot of ways, they sort of imposed their physical will on the game itself at times. And Vegas didn't back down either, not by any stretch. The final hits were 47-40 for Vegas, but the Jets are showing that they're not going to shrivel up in that game. So again, there we go. LP says until they split up Schiefele and Connor, this team is going nowhere. I mean, Kyle Connor was much more noticeable for me today, Shawn. 5 shots on goal, 7 attempts. I thought he was way more involved than he was in the Oilers game. Don't you agree?
I didn't hear who you're referring to.
I personally like Kyle Connor's game today. 5 shots on goal, 7 attempts.
Kyle Connor looked fast. He looked better.
Skating.
I mean, he was a guy who I needed to see him bounce back after what we saw from him at the end of that last game. Kyle Connor owed it to the rest of his teammates.
He sure did.
To come out and have a night. And listen, I've said this before. There's a lot of nights, we talked about this on the podcast. There's a lot of nights I think Kyle Connor does not show well at all. And then all of a sudden, boom, he puts a puck in the back of the net, right? And so people have asked why he gets the leeway he does. I have theorized that would have a big reason behind it, is that he's just so lethal on a night like tonight where he doesn't factor in on the scoring. I think I would take Kyle Connor not putting something on the board and giving his team a chance to win it the way that they had tonight before things turn in the end. I think I'd prefer this kind of game tonight where you see an all-in effort and him trying to use that speed to be a difference maker than looking disengaged, which like last game and for a number of games he's looked disengaged to me. Couple things we got to do here. One of them is make this a Shawn's Headband version of the Kenny and Renny show. Let's get at it right now. It's been called for, so let's do it. Didn't want to ruin this hair, but when it's called for, Ken. So here we go. Let's make it a Shawn's Headband version of the Kenny and Renny show. I've noticed, Kenny, some headband haters creeping into the chat lately, and I'm wondering with those people, when did life turn to ashes in your mouth and you were so upset with things in your life? Have a little fun with it. A couple of different things we got to get into. Let's get into this one right now because we are definitely not going to disappoint Corbin Johnson, who says, I guess we aren't talking about the 5-minute headshot major. I would like to transition this into Sweet Lou. Give me a Sweet Lou shout out because we are going to turn this into a buy and sell. Are you buying and selling the turnover? So give him a shout out and then let's move.
Right on. For folks who have realty needs they would like to have met, contact our main man, Lou Furlan at Rulebook Dynamic Realty and tell him Kenny and Renny sent you. You can reach him at 204-791-9971 or at the office, 204-989-5000. His email is lou@loufurlan.ca. That's LOU at LOUFURLAN.ca. Lou Furlan, excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of this community, including this podcast.
Love Sweet Lou. Hey, Ollie says what needs to happen is for Kenny to also throw on a headband. I was going to say, Ollie, it would never possibly happen, but I'm in a never say never mood now because Ken retracted his terrible third line take. He tried to sneak it all past us, everybody. I hope you feel redeemed, all you out there who sat back and watched that car crash just keep tumbling and tumbling and tumbling, show after show for like months on end. There shouldn't be that much momentum for a car to tumble that much, but Ken kept it going as long as he could, and then he quietly exited out the car and never said anything about it. We're glad to see you came out on the other side and you're still alive, Ken. But back to the buying and selling.
Oh, what a mistake.
Definitely a momentous turn in this game. Lots to dig into with this, not just whether or not you're buying it or selling it, but let's start with that. And then let's get into what I think was really the play that entirely turned this game, and it didn't turn for the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, I'm buying the overturn first and foremost, and I'll tell you why. In real time, I thought it was a clear elbow to the head from Nick Hague on Vladislav Nemesnikov. On the replay, the arm was out, but the contact was from between the just above the elbow and the shoulder for me, Shawn. Vladislav Nemesnikov has his head forward, but there is still head contact. And this is the problem where there's gray area, right? Until the league goes to a situation where every illegal check to the head is an automatic 5, there's going to be gray area. Yeah. In this situation, I don't see that hit as a major. Again,
okay, what differentiates the two? Explain to the audience what plateau you have to cross or get a top of for it to become a 5-minute major. Is it intent to injure?
For me, Hague doesn't go up to hit. He's committed to the hit, and he makes contact only makes contact with the head because the head is at that level. So on a normal play, that's a hit in the chest, and I don't think he comes up on the play. I know the elbow was out, but it wasn't an elbow to the head, waiters. That's why I don't agree with it being a major. If the elbow catches him clearly in the head, then it's an elbowing major, and we're not even having a discussion. Hits are supposed to be made with the shoulder. Now, like I said, until it's an automatic 5 for every time a player hits someone in the head with their shoulder, I don't think that's a major penalty. I know some people don't agree. And yes, I know that Brendan Dillon got 3 games for no, I don't think
it is not as similar a hit. It is not a similar play. The fans are going to like my take on this more than they're liking yours right now.
Okay,
Ken,
no
but
problem.
This is wrong.
Play to the fans then.
The Brendan Dillon situation was not a similar play. But sorry, did you say play to the fans?
Yeah, I did.
Wow, the roles have reversed here. Whoa, what is happening?
Anyways, just going to finish the thought. The defenseman is pinching down on the player. I don't think that he makes any upright motion. And that's why I think it's just an unfortunate circumstance. And of course, I understand people agree, but I mean, 2 wrong calls don't make it a right. And I get it. I didn't think Brendan Dillon deserved a 3-game suspension, but I'm not going to say because Dillon got a suspension, Nemesnikov being hit in the head should be an automatic suspension. I mean, I just don't think it was anything other than what was a clean hit. Now, I think it's unfortunate for Vladislav Nemesnikov, and the best news for Nemesnikov is that he came back to the bench. I still need to double check. I don't know if he got a shift or not, but the fact that he's not in concussion protocol still is good news. And again, do I think it changed the game? Of course, but I don't think that it was a major penalty. It was called a major penalty, so it could be reviewed. If it was an elbow to the head, clearly, I get it. The elbow is out, but the elbow is not what made contact with the head. It was shoulder to the head contact. And the way the rule is currently listed, it's a 2-minute minor penalty. And again, what I would say in wrapping up the discussion, I don't think Mark Schiefele should have got 2, 5, and 10. I think that's not even a fight. It's if you want to make it even, and that's a debate in itself. It's double roughing for Schiefele, a minor for check to the head for Haig, and a 2-minute roughing minor. Play on. It's 4 minutes. Skate on. Mark Schiefele doesn't go away. But Shawn, this is another example of Mark Scheifele's reputation hurting Mark Schiefele, and that's why he got 17 instead of 4.
Hey, I buy that. I've got that. I'm going to just address this quickly. Like the Brendan Dillon thing is an extremely, extremely dangerous hit. Straight on contact, two guys going as hard as they can. And I'm going to say the same thing about this one, that while I don't think that they're the same hit, not even anywhere near as dangerous. And again, I'll say this for the people who are trying to compare it, like pick those two hits and which one you would have rather taken. The one that was like a Mack truck blowing up a watermelon, or this one here tonight. It's not the same hit. But all that said, I'm going to say the same thing about this as I said about the Brendan Dillon thing. You don't get to go out and cause brain damage to someone and be like, oops, my bad. Sorry, I missed. Hey, he was bent over. Like, these rules exist for a reason. Now, I think, Ken, personally, the reason that they overturned it was because if you look in the replay of that play, Haig goes through and he continues through. I think it is complete and total head contact. It is a headshot, undoubtedly, but you can kind of see he's committed to the hit. And I think that there's a look on his face in the replay that's kind of like, I got caught. Like, he didn't intend on doing it. But I don't think Brendan Dillon intended to do it either. And at that time, I said it doesn't matter. You don't get to go out and, oops, I missed the guy. And by the way, now he's going to spend the next 6 months in a quiet room. It's the same thing for me here tonight. So I don't know what the standard is, whether it's intent to injure or not, or what that threshold has to be. I've been looking for the rule. No one was able to specifically give me the rule. I asked about the entire media. No one has like the rule book that says a hit to the head will become a major if. I don't have that. If someone can find it as we're going through the show here and you can bring it, we can react to that live. But what I'm seeing here is, regardless of whether or not he intended to do it, this is head contact. I was surprised it was turned over. So we're on the other side of this. You very clearly feel that it shouldn't, there were reasons why it wasn't a 5. I'm not sure I see the reasons why it wasn't a 5, other than the refs got a look at this and thought, oh boy, I don't know that he meant to do that. I said this the last time. I thought the people who are out there talking about the Noel Acciari hit and saying he was bent over was a reason why it wasn't. Like, what a ridiculous take. Hey, kids, don't bend over on the ice or you deserve brain damage. That's ridiculous. And that's what's happening in this case. He's bent over. So does he bend over and line up with his elbow? Yes. It's still incumbent upon players in the NHL in this day and age to try to protect each other in these situations, and I didn't see an effort by Haig to protect Nemesnikov in this case, which is why I was surprised to see it downgraded from a 5 to a 2. The NHL defines Rule 48.1 as follows. This from Tishu: a hit resulting in contact with an opponent's head where the head was the main point of contact and such contact to the head was avoidable is not permitted. We know this. This doesn't explain why
major or minor,
5 or a major or minor. That's what I'm looking for, is the rule that tells you what the differentiation is between the two. But I've made my point. We can move on from that and start talking about what that led to and what happened around it. Ken, you think one thing, I think the other on this. Isn't the first time it happened. I think, though, that my take is very consistent. If you go back and see what happened with Brendan Dillon in the Noel Acciari hit, I think my take is the same. And I would challenge a lot of people in the chat room who are thinking that they're two different plays, and at the, like, I don't know how many people in the chat room right now are saying this should have been a 5 and a problem, and I wonder how many of those people were defending the Brendan Dillon hit in the other situation.
Sure. And sorry, just quickly, Cranley, 2, 5, and 10 is the right call in the rule book. I don't agree. It wasn't even a fight. And did Mark drop his gloves first? I don't think so. Haig was ready to
Yeah.
fight him.
Sorry.
Did you think it should have been an instigator?
Okay. So this
And
is
sorry,
a tricky one. So this is what I wanted to get in and talk about with this. When that hit happens, I think what the refs are calling is it's one of these situations where they've built in the review, which allows you to back off of a call that you may get wrong. But all the calls that they make surrounding it are based on the idea of this big hit that's a 5-minute major and all this kind of stuff that's happening around it. And then this player came to fight this player because of that. Is it a fight? Like, I'll say this. I think this is...
It was not a fight.
Okay. I'm going to back this up. Remember all the times I talked about the Winnipeg Jets and the Kyle Connor situation? And, if you go back to the Austin Matthews situation from a couple of years ago, the Logan Stanley victory game, and how I said in that time, I thought that the Toronto Maple Leafs handled it horribly. They're going out of their way to protect the guy. They don't have their eyes on the prize, and they end up losing a game. I think this is that situation. Mark Schiefele goes flying in there. He drops the gloves. He throws 2 punches that aren't punches, Ken, but they're enough to look like he's trying to throw punches. If you go and watch this, Mark Scheifele's hand is literally not even balled into a fist. It's like he's throwing it like this, and then he realizes he's in a fight, and he bails and goes backwards because he realizes, like, what am I doing in this situation? But if I'm going to give the Winnipeg Jets credit in the past for being smart enough to be on top of the overall theme and saying, we're going to survive this, we're going to live for revenge another day, and we're going to take it on the scoreboard, this is the opposite. This is the Winnipeg Jets losing focus. This is Mark Scheifele, probably the most important forward on the ice for your power play, for going forward. Remus DM me the rule book. It doesn't specify. So that's
why it's not an automatic major.
Exactly. So it's just confusing in this situation here. And it's why really, Ken, you're not right. I'm not right. You're not wrong. I'm not wrong in this. I think you can fall to either side on this.
It's gray
so
area.
Then let's move the debate to what happens afterwards. Scheifele goes and he drops the gloves. Brendan Dillon's on the ice. He doesn't need to be the guy. Is it good? Is it bolstering to see your captain jump in and go to bat for a guy who, when he's not on this line, is a 4th-line player? It sure is. Could it pay off for the Jets down the line? It sure may, but it cost them tonight. You may not think that it's a fight, but he dropped his gloves and he tried to throw punches. Were they muffins? They were the muffin man's muffins in this case. And I think he realizes that he shouldn't be in this fight and that he bails out of it. But he gave the refs an opportunity to think that this was a fight happening, and that's what happens out of this. Could they, Ken, have looked and been like, I don't think that was much of a fight, let's let it slide? Yes, they could have, but I don't think you can blame the refs for seeing 2 guys drop the gloves, a guy come in hot, throw 2 punches, and then go to the ground and say, we had a fight here, and that guy came skating all the way across the ice to instigate it.
So why didn't Darnell Nurse get an instigator for when Brendan Dillon dumped Corey Perry into the bench the other night?
Say that again. What?
Why didn't Darnell Nurse get the instigator when Brendan Dillon dumped Corey Perry in the bench the other night and then he challenged him?
Yeah, I'm not saying
same
it was
thing.
Right there. You're right. So listen, I've said this in the past. Past bad calls doesn't make this a wrong call, right? The standard is all over the place, right? And you're dealing with the rest you're dealing with tonight. So Mark Scheifele put himself in a situation where you may not like the call, Ken. You may disagree with it. If I'm a ref, I saw gloves go flying and I saw a guy try to throw some punches. So am I going to say that they totally blew this and how could they possibly do that? No. Could they have gone your way? Sure, they could have. But once they made that call, it wasn't reviewable like the 5 minutes was. But the 5-minute call was reviewable. You can't go back and review whether or not they dropped the gloves or not. That call stands no matter what you do. So I say it was heated in that moment. A 5-minute major was called. They called Mark Scheifele coming in there. Probably the fact that they'd given so many penalties to the Vegas Golden Knights factored into the way they were doing. They didn't want to give the Jets every single example. I think the refs, I know from going and talking with some of the Golden Knights afterwards, I think that the refs thought that they, in retrospect, that on the Jets goal, they got the Josh Morrissey non-call on the trip wrong on Keegan
All
Colasar,
right.
and they their first explanation was, well, he got the puck first, but the argument by the Vegas Golden Knights was, but if you trip him and he can't recover to get the puck and it ends up in the back
It's
of
a
our
scoring
net,
chance.
exactly. And then beyond that, there's a high stick that is missed. So there's all kinds of stuff going on here in this situation. So are there missed calls? I think so. Does that affect things? I think it does. People are going to say you got to bury that. People are probably right to say that. But I don't take a look at this situation and think that they were outlandish to have called what they called in that situation. And I still go back to the original saying, I do think they got it wrong. They shouldn't have retracted. I think it was a 5-minute penalty for contact to the head.
All right. Well, then let's continue.
You don't want to dig in on that?
I've given my opinion. I don't.
Okay, but dig in.
I don't want to argue anymore.
Do you think it's the right play by Mark Schiefele in that situation?
The Jets have said all year long that they stand up for their teammates. So in that way, yes. So
Ken, don't
I don't personally.
Don't backdoor this.
Prefer.
Don't backdoor this.
I personally prefer the Jets to take a number in this situation. Is what I would say.
Okay,
but
there you go.
I don't blame Mark Schiefele for doing it because they've been doing it a lot during the course of the year. Nikolai Ehlers said it himself. You might have lost the 2 points, but that's a unifying type of moment. Did it cost them in this situation? Yes, but the Jets had 5 power plays compared to 1, did nothing with it. So if they had even gotten a 6th power play, it doesn't mean they would have won the game. So
all right, we got to move on. And I'm just taking a look at the scores here quickly. The Coyotes beat the Predators 8-4.
The streak is over. Tonight. The streak is over.
However, the Colorado Avalanche did gain 1 point, losing in a shootout to the New York Rangers. That's another point up on the Winnipeg Jets and a game in hand. So I believe they're 4 points up with a game in hand. That is close to insurmountable. The Dallas Stars now 7 points up on the Winnipeg Jets with a game in hand. I mean, if that's not insurmountable, I don't know what is. I think you can start having the conversations of where you want the Winnipeg Jets to finish other than top of the Central. That's not happening at this stage. There's too much that needs to go wrong and too much for them that needs to go right for them to get there. So we can move on from that. I do want to get into for this late in the okay, I'm going to get you to handle this just quickly. We got too involved in that other stuff, but someone suggested in here, let me see if I can find it, AJ Jetsback, who still needs to stick around. AJ Jetsback, don't let me catch you falling asleep on us. He says, has Bones coached the offense out of the team? His track record would say so. I don't agree with the idea that the track record would say so, but he said the other day about how hard it is to buckle down and play the defense in the system that he has. I know, I can tell you this right now. Jeff Merrick said and has talked to players on the Dallas Stars who wanted to see Rick Bowness gone because of this exact thing. Do you think that the defensive focus that the Jets have had, regardless of how well they won before earlier in the year by clamping things down, we do know that this team has had a problem all year with its offense going dormant and going quiet. Do you see a correlation between the defensive game they are being asked to play and their inability to score just all too often?
I mean, I understand the theory and I get it, but I mean, to be talking about it on a night where the Jets had 40 shots on net, 78 attempts, and just to check, they had 14 high danger chances in all situations, and 9 of them at 5-on-5. So, I mean, if they were not getting chances, then sure, we could talk about this, but the reason why the Jets are struggling in terms of their overall offense is not 5-on-5. It's their power play has let them down continuously, and that's why their numbers are down. They're still one of the best 5-on-5 teams in the league, so I don't see it as a direct correlation, no. I mean, Mark Schiefele last year had 42. Yeah, that's an anomaly for him. He's been a consistent 20-plus goal scorer. We've talked about that. He's been over 30, but I mean, 42 was a big jump for Schiefele. William Karlsson had 43 goals in a season also. So I don't personally, Shawn, I didn't expect Mark to have 42 this year. I wouldn't have been surprised if he was at 35-40, but I wasn't expecting him to score 42 again. Last year, he was burying more shots, but he was still a distributor, but his line mates weren't producing at the same rate. So Anyways, I understand the theory, and it's easy to say, oh, well, Dallas didn't score. They bought DeBoer in. They started scoring more. I mean, okay, well, Jason Robertson was also a year older. Pavelski's there doing great things. Rope Hintz took another step in his development.
Definitely not the defensive team they were before. Like, yeah, they're scoring more, but I would also argue they are not playing as rigidly as they were.
So there's a sacrifice that was made.
Exactly. Yeah.
On the other side of the puck. And that hasn't, if the Dallas Stars win the Stanley Cup, then we can have that debate. If the Jets can't score in the playoffs, then sure, let's have the debate. And like, I applaud the effort, like you and I, Shawn. We're trying to look into the future. But to me, to this point, I don't see Rick having done that to the offense. The Jets have ample offensive talent, and right now they're not producing at that same rate. And I don't think it's the coach. The coach wasn't there for some of the games where they weren't producing offense. He missed 4 games. So they were shut out in one of them and had one in the other. So I don't know that it's as simple as saying it's the coach's fault. I mean, is it a hard style to play? Absolutely. But we weren't having any of these discussions when the Jets were playing excellent defensive hockey and still managing to score and win a lot of games. So I'm not there.
They didn't score a ton, though. That's the thing. Like, the one thing I would say, and I would question, is at that time of the year, there was a faith that existed that, they weren't going to allow very many goals. And so it wasn't going to take a lot to win games scoring wise, which is why we had the conversations. Like, anyone in the lineup and down the lineup can be a difference maker on any night for the Jets, because a lot of times they only allow 1 goal. So if you score 1, you either tied the game or you scored the game winner in a lot of cases, right? And I just wonder if that once it turned and once they started allowing a few more goals down the stretch here, and they haven't got the cap back on, keeping them to 3 goals and under. I wonder if that at this stage, there's just that much more pressure to score. And then if you're not able to score, if the belief in the whole system starts kind of tugging and pulling apart at the seams, that's the only thing that I would ask. Hey, I want to bring this up because Kenny's water bottle went out of his way to have my back and bring up the rules for the illegal check to the head. Okay. Probably the only time Kenny's water bottle has ever had my back on this podcast. Thank you for that. But in determining whether contact with an opponent's head was avoidable, the circumstances of the hit including the following shall be considered. 1, whether the player attempted to hit squarely through the opponent's body and the head was not picked as a result of poor timing, poor angle of approach, or unnecessary extension of the body upward or outward. I would say he failed in this regard. So I would say option 1 goes against Haig. Option 2, whether the opponent put himself in a vulnerable position by assuming a posture that made head contact on an otherwise full body check unavoidable. So I think this one kind of goes against the Mesnikov in this case, just because of where he is on the ice. And 3 is whether the opponent material changed the position of his body or head immediately prior to or so. So I think 1 and 3 go towards a 5-minute major, but 2 doesn't. The minor penalty, or check this out, Rule 48.3, major penalty. There is no provision for a major penalty for this rule. So there's nothing definitive on this. It basically puts it towards the refs. So in this case, I would say because Nemeskov is down where he is in this situation, I think that one does not go. I think basically if I'm an official and I say rule number 1, rule number 2, and rule number 3 all went against Haig, let's give him a 5. I think in this case, they probably say rule number 1 and 3 went against Haig, but rule number 2 kind of goes into Mesnikov because of where he is. And I think that's why he doesn't get the major penalty. I still think it should have been a major penalty.
Sorry, 3 goes for Haig because he didn't change his path, not that he did. He didn't change his path. So that would be in favor of Haig.
Material changed the position of his body. The opponent. No, that when you're talking about the opponent means Nemesnikov in this case.
Sorry.
The opponent is the player that is hit. Anyways, we need to move on and we need to get to Johnson Group got you covered play of the game. What do you got?
Yeah, Dylan DeMello lays out to block a great one-timer in the slot from Jonathan Marchessault in the first period. I think he blocked it with his arm. Just an unselfish play. And it was actually, I think it was on the first power play of the game, right? Vegas had the first power play. That was when it happened. Yeah, it's definitely when it happened. He went down on one knee and it hit him in the arm. And to me, that was the best example of it.
Okay, that's the Johnson Group got you covered play of the game. And do you run a small business in Canada? Look to Canada's #1 employee benefits plan, Chambers Plan, to give you a competitive edge. Chambers Plan is the simple, stable, smart choice for over 30,000 businesses countrywide. So visit chamberplan.ca if you want to learn more. Ken, is there anything? Go on.
Logan Stanley also, I guess, could fall under this category. I know that he said in the last game that he doesn't need to fight every game, but Logan Stanley had his teammates covered again, Shawn. And this, to me, just quickly needs to be mentioned, and I don't need to spend a long time about it. But this is a guy who looks like he's starting to understand his role a little bit more. Don't you agree?
Oh, God, yeah. Yes, like finally.
This is what the Jets have wanted from him.
He's giving them reason to keep him in the lineup. But Ken, like in his defense, I think Logan Stanley has always thought that, that guy who scored the 2 goals against Montreal and sent it to overtime in Game 4 of the playoffs, I think Logan Stanley has always thought that's who he could be consistently in the NHL. And so I don't think Logan Stanley wanted to be the guy who just goes out and has to fight every game to stay in. So I get it. This is one of those scenarios by which Logan Stanley may be getting into a place in his career where he's like, well, if I want to do it, hey, how many tough guys in the NHL do you hear the story from? Like, I never came in here intending to be a tough guy. I was like a really good scorer in junior. I was a really good player. And then you get to the NHL and all of a sudden you're turned into that situation. I see that with Logan Stanley. I think Logan Stanley still thinks in him is a guy who can boom a slapper from the point and get some shots and get some goals and contribute in that way. I think his defense has held him back in that regard. And without getting that defense underneath you, you can't get to that. So has it taken some time? God, he's 25 years old now. Is he, Ken? I believe.
Yeah, I believe
25
so, yeah.
years old, you're not a young man anymore. No. I think he's at the stage where he's saying, okay, I guess I really need to take a serious look at what this big frame is capable of and how I can make a difference in a game. If this is what it is, fine, so be it. But I can understand how hard it would be for a player who probably thought at one time he could be a difference maker on the scoreboard. I can see how hard it would be to come to that realization at one point. I think he's starting to come to the realization.
And again, I don't need him to fight every game. 5 hits, that's what I'm impressed by. 5 hits in less than 10 minutes or fewer than 10 minutes of ice time. He smoked Amadio. He had another big hit. Getting involved physically is what's going to keep him in the lineup even more so than the fighting.
Personally. Okay, I just wanted to throw this out there. The Mark Schiefele thing, I do think it cost the Jets tonight. This is one of those nights where go back to that. The Toronto game always stands out to me when Pierre-Luc Dubois went all over Austin Matthews, and I thought that Toronto lost their minds chasing the Jets around for revenge. I don't think the Jets lost their mind on the whole, but in that situation, Mark Schiefele goes for that. It catches him. I know you don't think it should have. I know you think the refs got it wrong, but I don't think that you can look at that and say it's impossible for him to get that call. He needs to know going into that situation, this is a possible outcome. This comes out of it, but this still may pay off. And you heard his teammates talk about how he handled it after the game. This could be one of these things that galvanizes the team down the stretch. So I think in the end, that's great teamwork by Mark Schiefele. And we wanted to give a quick shout out to the team at Cambridge Credit Union from answering members' calls in less than 1 minute to having all their advisors available by video from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. It makes it so easy to be a Cambrian member like both you and I are, Ken. It is obvious that the whole team at Cambrian cares about giving you great service. Well done, Cambrian. That's great teamwork by them. I thought it was great teamwork by Mark Schiefele. Time to get to the keg save of the game. Ken, what do you got?
Oh, I was ready for Lamplighter. I'm not. Which
I'll
one
go.
Sorry, no. I think it's the one-timer on Appleton, even though it's late. I know there was also a one-timer on Schiefele that I'll give an honorable mention to, but I thought that those 2 saves by Logan Thompson, I'm going to give it to the second one just because it was a little bit of it. The Jets are down 2-1 and had a chance to tie the game.
I never even got into talk about it, and I will just very quickly. At the beginning of this game, the Winnipeg Jets were giving up all kinds of opportunities inside. I think one thing you should have hope with the Jets about is they came to the realization that they weren't going to keep those big bodies of the Vegas Golden Knights out from the inside in the slot area. So they just needed to be able to handle it properly when they got there. And if you see in the second period, they are all about taking away sticks, taking away passing lanes, getting better body position on those players. When those players did get the puck, the Jets were just kind of nudging them a little bit out of a good scoring area. They didn't do that on the Jack Eichel opportunity right off the bat. He gets that shot right in tight. That's a great save, but the better one is the rebound play that I think
kicked by Marchessault.
Yeah, kicked, but then he gets his stick on it.
Yep.
And he jams it. I think Connor Hellebuck does this better than any goaltender in the NHL. Is when he's down and out like that, his toe finds the post and he just welds it to the post and doesn't allow players to jam that in short side. It takes a lot of strength to be able to make sure that that puck doesn't get over the line. And that is an absolutely great play, I think, by Connor Hellebuck in this game, where I do think Connor Hellebuck was the Renny the Renny stat winner. I thought he was the better goalie in this game. Doesn't work out for them in the 2 points. That's my take on it. Anyways, that's also my keg save of the game. Doesn't matter what I think, matters what you in the chat room think. Share with us your hashtag, the keg save of the game. You're automatically entered to win a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. And the winner, as I alluded to earlier in the show, foreshadowing, we call it, AJ Jetsback. You
Well
are
done.
the winner of the keg save of the game from the last show. You know what to do. Direct message me at SN Shawn Reynolds. Send me your full name and your email. I'll have the fine folks at the keg send you a $50 gift certificate usable at each or any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. And that brings us to our TCB, TransCanada Brewing Company lamplighter of the game. What do you got?
Yeah, buddy, and this is not trolling for those who are throwing it out there. Everyone knows my feelings about Ivan Barbashev, but I'm sorry, in a tie game where a player wins a battle, gets to a rolling puck, and roofs his shot, I don't see how you can pick another goal as the lamplighter. I appreciate the tip by Shawn Monahan, another great goal by him, 23rd of the year, 10th as a Jet. But in a tie game where the Jets were unable to score on basically an open net, Barbashev goes the other way and scores the game winner. So to me, that's my lamplighter.
I'm going to stick with the theme that I did last show. Shawn Monahan, not only because, Nick Ehlers pointed out, how good is this guy at tipping pucks? Like, that's a really, really sneaky good tip that he has there. Basically, like under the bar, like who calls their shot and tips it upwards under the bar, knowing that where the shot is, the goalie is going to be dropping to his knees. Like that is, I don't think in real time he's thinking, you know what, this is the kind of shot where the goalie is going to be dropping to his knees and I'm just going to put it underneath the bar. But I think it's one of those instinctual plays that hockey players make because they built, the hockey smarts into their brain to the point that it's a knee-jerk reaction for them. I thought that that's what that was. And again, these are repeatable goals. They're the kind of goals the Winnipeg Jets are scoring lately. You should be happy with it. It's not, 6-0 goals that they're scoring against teams that aren't going to be allowing those kind of goals in the playoffs because they won't be in the playoffs. So for me, it's a blueprint type goal that the Jets need to be getting more of. 2 straight games with those. Again, I think it's reason for belief that the Jets are somewhat building. That's my TCB lamplighter of the game. Doesn't matter what we think, though. Matters what you think. Send us or share with us your hashtag TCB lamplighter of the game. You're automatically entered to win a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. If you can't wait for Kenny and Renny to gift you your 8-pack, head on down to TransCanada. Join them in their tap room. They've got the store there. You can buy those beers. Go to 11290 Keniston. Great pizza, great food, great atmosphere. It's got it all. They're great people, especially. We love our association with the people at TransCanada Brewing Company. And we love the fact that April 6th, our final Kenny and Renny live show is sold out. Yes, it is sold out. But never fear. There's always one more event. We're going to have the year ender yet, but April 6th, our final Kenny and Renny live show. That is all to say I'm getting to the winner of the lamplighter, and that would be Don Bergman. Don Bergman, you have won the lamplighter from this show. From last show. You know what that means? That means you will get it as long as you direct message me at SN Shawn Reynolds. Send me your full name, send me your email, and I will send you a voucher for a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TCB. It is the nectar of the gods. And let me throw this out here again.
One of Altona's finest, by the way. One of Altona's finest. And Shawn, you should know the original suggester of buy and sell in the Lou Ferlin category.
Okay, well, yeah, I don't want to rock the boat here, and I don't want to start a fire, but Renny did not do the picking of the Lamplighter on this day. Ken sent me the winners. So is there a little bit of something going on behind the scenes here? I don't know. Do I want to turn people against Ken in the chat room? I always do, in every opportunity I have.
Well done.
I'm going to try it. Good. So, Don, I'm watching you, Don. I'm watching you. Doesn't mean you're still not going to get your Frosty Delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TCB. Before we do go, I want to bring this up. I messed that show up. I messed up last show where I started the show and then ended the show and started the show. And I tried to get across the fact that the previous show I had not mentioned that Fourth Line Maniac won the Lamplighter for that show. So I'm giving Fourth Line Maniac another opportunity. Get a hold of me, Fourth Line Maniac. I messed this up. I owe it to you. So direct message me at SN Shawn Reynolds, your full name and your email, and I will also send you a voucher for a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, because you deserve, after Renny screw up, the nectar of the gods. Ken, anything to say before we go?
No, fun game. This was what the next while should look like in terms of what is happening. Again, tension is fun in a season, and I've said this for weeks. Find out what you're made of when times are tough. That is what the Jets need to do here. They've responded well in terms of their play today, but they had nothing to show for it. So can you stick to your process, improve your offense, be better on the power play without abandoning the things that you did well in this game, even though you didn't get a result? Because just quickly, and again, I don't want to spend much time talking about Vegas, but Shawn, the defending Stanley Cup champions are not counting their chickens before they're hatched. Jack Eichel today, Keegan Kolesar, the Winnipegger, both said we have to make the playoffs. They're being pushed by other teams. They're talking about having to make the playoffs. The Jets have kind of been operating under the assumption that they're in the playoffs, even though Rick Bowness said they don't have an X beside their name. And now they're going to have to crank it up. And again, they got a break tonight. They got a massive break, Shawn. Arizona's been playing terrible.
Oh, yeah.
They beat Nashville. If Nashville wins tonight, that's 2 points behind in the standings.
And a game to come between the two teams.
Yeah, and
Jets
breathing down your neck.
Jets still on the tiebreaker.
That's totally fine.
I'm telling you right now, it's still hard for it to happen. Hey, when I've talked about numbers and where things could expect,
for sure,
we're going to be like, I remember saying that year that the Jets missed the playoffs for a long time. As everyone was saying this, it's like, forget about it. They're not making the playoffs. That happened this last year or last year. I said, forget about it. They're making the playoffs. You can stop worrying about it. Like, the numbers tell us they're not going to get to first and they're not going to get to second, and they're very, very likely not going to drop down after this. I honestly think it's much ado about nothing at this stage. That said, a couple things before I do go here. I wanted to bring this up because, as usual, Tishu taking cheap shots at Renny. He says, I think Shawn was locked in the stairwell intentionally. Tishu, I didn't want to hurt you, and I was going to bring this up, but you won the Lamplighter a number of shows ago for the March 21st show, and we had to move on from it because you didn't claim it. Am I trying to hurt you right now by doing this? I don't know, but I know that you're trying to hurt me with these hurtful comments, and I just anyways, I got to move on. And the one thing I will say is I'm watching for this mark, right? So everyone right now is saying, what's going on with the Jets? I remind you that as the Jets were going into this schedule based on the way they were playing, I said we should expect a tail off going into this next stretch of hockey. Why? Not because they're going to play any different or higher or lower than where they were playing, because the kind of game that they have been playing since Christmas time is not conducive to them having much in the way of success in the schedule that they had down the stretch here. So with 12 games left, I said, with 24 points on the board, the expectation is that the Winnipeg Jets should be getting 11 to 13 points. I rounded up to make it 13, but if you don't round up or if you round down, it should have been around 11. So that is the margin of error. You should, within the last 12 games, they should be earning in the neighborhood of 11 or 13 points, which should put them smack dab in third place, is what the expectation should be. Well, 3 games later, their first 6 possible points that they could get, they've got 1 point out of it. Right. So now they're down to 18 possible points going down the stretch. If they were to win, what are we looking at here? 6 of 9 games. If they were to go 6-3, they would end up with 13 points. So already they're actually falling behind the curve of that, of what you could expect. But listen, this is what was said before this stretch here. You should expect the Winnipeg Jets down the stretch here to struggle to the degree that they would be in the neighborhood of a 500 hockey club. And that's because they have shown since Christmas time how they compete against the kind of schedule they have left, places them at being just above a 500 hockey club. What we're seeing right now, you should have expected these results based on what we've seen from the Jets. It's not that they're playing down at this moment. It's that they're the same team they've been since Christmas time. They're just being pressure tested in the way that they haven't really been pressure tested throughout this time. Anyways, that's my take on it. Ken, you have anything to say before we go?
Nope. 9 to go. Should be fun. And just a quick update on Gabriel Velarde. We should know more. Rick Bowness thinks we should know more after Friday's practice. He said he continues to feel good and look good, but he hasn't had a full practice with any kind of contact yet. So I would not expect him in the lineup on Saturday against the Ottawa Senators. I would say the earliest he could be back is Monday against the LA Kings. Now, and that's a tough game to come back for, but I would say that they want to get him in the lineup before the playoffs arrive. Whether that's 4 games or 8 games, I'm not sure. But as long as there are no setbacks, I would expect that we're going to see Gabriel Velarde before long, and I would expect that would provide the Jets a boost. But yes, he hasn't played since February 29th, so to expect him to be peak Gabriel Velarde right out of the gate is probably not something that you should set your expectations accordingly. Now, having said that, I do think that he would provide a boost to the lineup.
One thing I should say, I had a very frank conversation with members of the Vegas Golden Knights after the game. They thought they stunk tonight. So they thought that was a very bad version of.
Well, they gave up 40 shots, and that's not.
I know
them, right?
they thought they stunk. So I know we said all this. The Winnipeg Jets, though, lost tonight to the 8th seed in the Western Conference, who thought that they had an off night. That's where we are with the Winnipeg Jets. They're trying to nurse their game back to a place where it was, but even on a night where I'd contend was the one time in the last 5 games they were the better team on the ice. The team that was not the better team on the ice agreed and thought that they stunk and should have been a lot better than that. Anyways, thank you, chat room, for jumping in. We really appreciate everything we've got here. Winners, make sure you get a hold of me. Ken, you did a great job tonight. And I want to end this by saying what I always say at the end of these. If you appreciate the conversations happening in this space, please appreciate our sponsors that fight to keep the conversation going in this space for us. That's Vittorio Rossi, Pristine Roofing, Sweet Lou Furlan, Cambrian Credit Union, the Johnson Group, the Keg, and of course, TransCanada Brewing Company. Thank you to them. Thank you to all you. Hockey Night in Canada, the one remaining game the Jets have against a bottom team in the NHL. This, from my model, says this is the kind of game that the Winnipeg Jets should be winning. Expected, not going to be easy. The Ottawa
Winners of 4 in a row.
4 straight wins, although 3 of them were against pretty low-end teams. They did pull one against the Edmonton Oilers. Regardless, that's what the Jets are facing. We can't wait to talk to you afterwards to talk about what they faced and how they handled it. Looking forward to it at that time. See you later, everybody.